Hi, I'm Toro, and this is the World in Series. Each episode in this series is a quiet journey through time, softly exploring the people, places, and events that shaped a single year in our shared history. So get comfortable, let your thoughts wander, and let's drift back to the world as it was. The world in 1918. Welcome, dear listener. This is Toro, and tonight, I invite you to rest your mind, slow your breathing, and join me on a gentle journey back through time. Together, we will drift into the world of the year 1918, a year that unfolded like a bittersweet lullaby, with moments of hardship and moments of quiet hope woven into the fabric of daily life. Imagine yourself lying safely in bed, the present world fading softly around you, as if you were stepping into the pages of a memory. The air feels different, lighter somehow, filled with the scents, sounds, and silences of a century ago. 1918 was a year of great turning points, endings and beginnings, closures and dawns. But tonight, we will not rush through battles or storms. Instead, we will wander slowly, with calm footsteps, exploring the events, inventions, fashions, and stories that shaped the atmosphere of that year. So, let your eyes grow heavy, your thoughts grow soft, and together, let us drift into the world of 1918. World events. The year 1918 opened with much of the world still in the long shadow of the Great War. Yet beneath the clouds of conflict, there were moments of change, signs of new chapters to come. In Europe, the war edged toward its conclusion. Quietly, behind the roar of cannons, leaders prepared treaties, soldiers longed for home, and families whispered prayers for peace. In November, an armistice would finally be signed, and though the details belonged to politics and papers, for ordinary people, it simply meant the chance to breathe, to hope, and to dream of normal life again. Meanwhile, across the seas, America felt its growing presence on the world stage. Soldiers from farmlands and cities alike crossed the Atlantic, while at home, women worked in factories and children collected scraps for the war effort. In kitchens, recipes stretched ingredients, and in neighborhoods, conversations were filled with both pride and quiet worry. Elsewhere in the world, history turned in different ways. In Russia, the ripples of revolution reshaped everyday life. Monarchies, once thought eternal, had ended, and a new order was emerging. Far away in Japan, modernization continued, blending traditions with new industries. In India, movements for independence stirred gently, growing year by year. Not all events were political. In 1918, nature made her presence deeply felt. The influenza pandemic, often simply called the Spanish flu, swept across continents. It touched cities and villages alike, altering daily routines, creating silences in once busy streets, and reminding the world of both fragility and resilience. Families turned to remedies, neighbors cared for one another, and across the globe, the rhythm of life slowed. Amid these changes, there were moments of unity. Concerts were held to raise spirits, charities organized for those in need, and letters from loved ones offered hope. Even in difficult times, humanity found small ways to connect, to smile, and to endure. The year 1918, then, was not only about war and illness. It was also about resilience, about the courage of people who, even in uncertainty, continued to live, to work, and to dream of tomorrow. Daily life around the world. If we wandered gently through the streets of 1918, what would we see? In many European cities, women in long skirts and simple coats walked briskly through markets, their hats adorned with feathers or ribbons, though fashions had grown plainer due to shortages. In America, Men tipped flat caps as they passed neighbors, while young boys played marbles or rolled hoops along sidewalks. Shops were filled with both necessities and small novelties. A loaf of bread in the United States cost around 10 cents, and a quart of milk just over 9 cents. Stamps for letters were a mere 3 cents. Tiny rectangles carrying hopes and greetings across miles. Despite shortages, new consumer items brought excitement. Wristwatches had become fashionable, practical for soldiers, but quickly embraced by civilians. Fountain pens, too, were popular, symbols of modern convenience. Families admired phonographs, which filled parlors with the warm crackle of music, and typewriters, which clattered in offices and homes. Children found joy in simpler things. Teddy bears, dolls, and tin soldiers remained favorites, while puzzles and board games offered cozy entertainment indoors. Some boys dreamed of the skies, building model airplanes inspired by daring aviators. In kitchens, recipes adjusted to rationing. Families learned to cook with less sugar and meat, turning to breads, potatoes, and preserved foods. Home gardens flourished, providing fresh vegetables and a sense of independence. In Britain, victory bread was baked with alternative flours, and in America, posters encouraged families to observe meatless Mondays and wheatless Wednesdays. Beyond Europe and America, life carried its own rhythms. In Indian bazaars, spices scented the air, and merchants sold fabric rich with color. In Chinese cities, bicycles jingled along narrow streets, while tea houses filled with conversation. In Egypt, markets overflowed with fruit and fragrant coffee. In Argentina, tango rhythms drifted from dance halls, while gauchos still rode across wide pampas. Everywhere, fashion was shifting toward simplicity. The elaborate gowns of earlier decades gave way to straighter silhouettes. Hemlines crept higher, allowing freer movement. Shorter hairstyles for women began to appear, a quiet step toward the coming flapper era of the 1920s. And there were fads, too, novelties that delighted the public. Crossword puzzles were beginning their slow rise. Jazz, lively and new, traveled across borders. Silent films charmed audiences, inspiring hairstyles, clothing choices, and even the way people carried themselves. So in 1918, though the world faced hardships, daily life remained a tapestry of small pleasures. The comfort of tea poured at dusk, the thrill of a new gramophone record, the laughter of children skipping rope in quiet streets. Science, inventions, and technology. Amid global change, science and invention moved steadily forward. Aviation captured imaginations. Airplanes, once fragile experiments, had become faster and stronger. Some were used for war, but people also dreamed of peaceful flight. Newspapers printed sketches of futuristic air travel, and children gazed upward at the rare sight of a plane against the clouds. Automobiles became increasingly common, though still a luxury for many. The Ford Model T rolled steadily off assembly lines, bringing mobility to ordinary families. Streets echoed with the sound of engines alongside the familiar clip-clop of horse-drawn carriages. Electricity lit more homes each year. In cities, lamps glowed softly at night, and in some towns, shops stayed open longer, creating a new rhythm of evenings. The hum of electric fans, the buzz of telephones, and the sturdy click of typewriter keys brought modern sounds into daily life. In medicine, doctors sought treatments for influenza, though remedies were limited. Still, advances continued. Antiseptics, vaccines for other diseases, and new understandings of hygiene. Nurses and caregivers became quiet heroes, their presence offering comfort. Other inventions, though smaller, enchanted the public. Safety razors, vacuum cleaners, and even electric toasters made life easier. These were marvels of convenience, symbols of modern progress that whispered of a faster, brighter future. Even in uncertain times, science carried hope. Hope that discovery could improve life, make it safer, and open new horizons. Culture and the arts. Culture, too, blossomed in its own quiet ways in 1918. In literature, readers turned to novels both for escape and reflection. Willa Cather published My Antonia, a tender story of life on the Nebraska plains. Across the ocean, in Britain, poets captured the emotions of their time, while in Russia, new voices experimented with bold, modernist styles. On stage, theaters filled with plays and performances, though sometimes interrupted by the flu. In Paris and London, cabarets and music halls offered lively evenings. In New York, Broadway continued to enchant, with musical comedies and revues filling the air with song. Music was a source of joy and escape. Jazz spread further, with its syncopated rhythms and improvisation. Dance halls welcomed foxtrots and tangos, while gramophones carried voices like Enrico Caruso into homes. Families gathered around pianos, singing together as sheet music sales thrived. In art, movements such as Dada and early Surrealism challenged conventions, while Impressionist and Post-Impressionist works still stirred hearts. Posters with bold colors and elegant lettering decorated streets, not just for war, but for concerts, exhibitions, and consumer goods. Film continued its rise. Silent movies brought stars into public imagination. Charlie Chaplin, with his gentle humor, made audiences laugh and sigh. Newsreels introduced people to events abroad, blending entertainment with information. Sports also played their part. Baseball in America provided a cheerful distraction. In Europe, soccer and cycling filled weekends. Horse racing, boxing, and even tennis brought excitement, giving communities shared moments of joy. So while the year carried heavy news, culture offered windows of delight. Music to hum, stories to read, and pictures to marvel at, filling evenings with comfort. Media and headlines. How did people hear about the world in 1918? Newspapers were the lifeline, printed daily with ink that smudged fingers and headlines that carried both weight and whimsy. Posters and telegrams added urgency, while magazines filled with longer reflections. Prices remained modest by today's standards. A newspaper might cost just a penny or two. Bread, as we said, about 10 cents. A man's suit might be purchased for under $20, while a stylish woman's dress could be found for $15. Headlines in 1918 spoke softly of both hope and challenge. Imagine them, read like bedtime notes. Armistice signed. The guns fall silent across Europe. Influenza epidemic continues to spread. Care urged. Ford Model T rolls off the line. Affordable car for the masses. Willa Cather's new novel captures life on the plains. Silent film star Charlie Chaplin delights crowds again. Jazz music sweeps dance halls from New Orleans to New York. Local boy wins marbles tournament. Between the serious and the light, people found both perspective and pleasure in the daily press. People born/died this year. 1918 welcomed into the world many who would shape the century. That year, Nelson Mandela was born in South Africa, a child who would one day become a symbol of justice and peace. In America, the civil rights leader Coretta Scott King was born. So, too, were musicians like Leonard Bernstein, whose compositions would one day stir hearts, and politicians like George H.W. Bush, future president of the United States. The year also marked farewells. The gifted Austrian painter Gustav Klimt passed away, leaving behind shimmering, dreamlike works. The composer Claude Debussy departed, his music still echoing in concert halls. And among the many lives lost to influenza were countless unnamed souls, each with their own story. In this way, 1918 was both an ending and a beginning, as every year must be. As December arrived, the world stood at a threshold. The war had ended, though its scars remained. Families longed for reunions, and communities dreamed of rebuilding. Streets echoed with cautious celebrations, while winter winds whispered promises of renewal. For many, 1918 closed with a mixture of relief and uncertainty. The silence of peace felt strange after years of noise. The future was uncharted, yet full of possibility. There were new inventions, new music, and new ideas waiting just ahead. Imagine walking through a quiet town at year's end. Snow falls softly, muffling the world. Lamps glow in windows where families gather. Inside, a gramophone plays a gentle tune, while outside, the streets rest in peaceful stillness. Is the calm after a long storm, the deep breath before tomorrow. And so, the year 1918 passed into memory, carrying with it lessons of endurance, moments of beauty, and the tender hope of brighter days to come. Thank you, dear listener, for wandering with me through the world of 1918. I hope this gentle journey has eased your thoughts and carried you closer to rest. If you found comfort in this story, I warmly invite you to like, to subscribe, and to return again for the next chapter of our travels. Together, we will continue to drift softly through time, year by year, exploring the quiet wonders of the past. For now, close your eyes, let the echoes of 1918 soothe you, and drift into dreams. Good night.